Okay, folks, so we've got a lot to talk about. Number one, I want to talk about the latest GDP report that just came out this morning, what it says, and what the implications are moving forward. A lot of the most important parts did not get accurate coverage today, and I want to talk about what they are so that you're informed. Number two, I want to talk about our TBLT short squeeze play, which popped again today. Where is this bad boy going next? Number three, our monkeypox trades, SIGA and GovX are going parabolic. Looking very parabolic-y, aren't they? I don't think that's a word, but it sure as hell should be, right? What is my take moving forward, and what do you need to know? And lastly, but perhaps most importantly, we are going to finish this video off with a very, very specific catalyst that just started emerging this morning that is going to become incredibly relevant over the next couple of weeks. I guarantee you, if you don't familiarize yourself with this catalyst, you're going to look back and be like, damn it, I wish I had listened to Charlie Charlester. Anyways, timestamps below, let's go ahead and get to work. And this video is brought to you by the up to 10 lovely free stocks that you're going to get when you sign up with Moomoo using our link down below. Great trading app. You're going to like them a lot. If you are interested in signing up, make sure to do so before the end of the month, which is in like 2 or 3 days, because, well, that's when the deal expires. They haven't told me yet what they're going to do in August, but I don't think it's going to be as good as this, because this is pretty insane. Okay, folks, so it is official. We now have 2 contracting quarters of GDP, 6 months of a contracting economy. If only there was some sort of word that describes this period of time, something that starts with like an R and rhymes with like concession. I feel like there was some sort of word for this. I just can't remember what it is. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. The White House got rid of that earlier this week. And just in time too, what a coincidence. But out of curiosity, I mean, quite frankly, if we aren't allowed to say we are in a recession anymore, or even recognize the existence of a contraction in the overall economy that has been happening for the last 6 months, then what should we call this? Is this actually a expansion? Is shrinkage the new growth? And keep in mind, when you're looking at this, this is preliminary data. We played this game already in Q1 where they said, oh, we had a contraction every quarter, and then as the estimates were revised, guess what happened? Well, it kept getting worse and worse. And then when you got the most accurate data set, it ended up being a lot worse than the original. But when you get this kind of contractionary number here, negative 0.9, keep in mind that the Wall Street average estimate was plus 0.4 last night, which means that there was a 1.3 point difference between what Wall Street analysts were expecting as of just yesterday and what we got today. Turns out that Wall Street analysts are also very, very in the dark on this recession, or at least they are publicly trying to appear like they're in the dark to keep people invested in their funds. So that aside, what did the report actually show? Well, there's a few areas that are a bit nauseating. You have a 4.4% drop in consumer goods spending, which is just starting an overall trend. Walmart was the first to really come out a couple days ago and say, hey, you know, we have way too much inventory and we're going to have to start lowering our prices to offload that inventory now that consumer demand is going down. You have service spending continuing to go up, but that didn't offset the drop in consumer goods. Gross domestic investment is a disaster. Investment in business has just dried up as the Fed has raised rates. Interest in actually investing in this crapshoot of an economy is starting to dwindle, right? And that's very, very unfortunate, but that's what we are seeing. And that's spreading out to most categories like fixed investment, to structures, to equipment, to especially residential real estate. Another reason that GDP dropped was because government consumption expenditures and gross investment, aka overall government spending, has declined. This is actually something that I and you should see as a good thing, but it's also kind of misleading, of course. But for this quarter, you saw a 1.9% drop in overall government spending, 3.2% drop in federal, 10.5% in non-defense, and 1.2% locally. Now, why is government spending coming down? Well, the reason isn't more fiscal conservatism or congressional budget following. No. It's more that we had these 2 quarters, Q2 of 2020 and Q1 of 2021, where spending increased a whopping 20.6% and a whopping 11.3% respectively due to the COVID stimulus passed in those quarters. And so any quarter that isn't getting massive stimulus that is comparing itself to previous quarters that were is going to look like a very, very deficit crunching quarter and thus bring down GDP. But in fact, we're still way above where we should be with this deficit, and the United States is basically spending like a financial crack addict. Hi, I'm America and I have a spending problem. And Greece is in the corner like, hi, Charlie's a bigot against the Greek people. No, we love the Greeks here at ZipTrader. But the point is, when it comes to GDP, you are seeing some of the drop being attributed to a decrease in government spending. If you're going from an environment where you are stimulating to now an environment where there's less stimulation, well, when the stimulation wears off, so does the positive effect, right? And so the gains that you got from GDP by spending more are now contracting. And another important line item to think about is the change in inventory. A lot of companies, as you know, overstocked in the last quarter of 2021 and into the first quarter of 2022. And now, quite frankly, they're not seeing enough demand to justify that overstocking. And I'm seeing a lot of analysts come out and say, hey, if you just completely take out this major line item and you just take out and remove inventory as a whole, well, guess what? We didn't have a contractionary quarter. Slower inventory accumulation subtracted 2 percentage points from output in the second quarter, according to the Commerce Department, meaning GDP would have grown had businesses not been trimming their stockpiles. I saw similar arguments being made all over the media and all over social media as well. Hey, it's not really a contraction because if you just remove the major line items that cause the contraction, there's no contraction anymore. But to me, if you're a business and you stacked up huge on inventory, expecting huge increases in demand or at least consistent demand carried forward, and then all of a sudden you get to those quarters and you're not seeing that demand, well, isn't that a bad thing? Doesn't that indicate that you're not seeing as strong of an economy as you would have liked? Doesn't that make sense that that would drag down the GDP? One of the stupidest ways to look at this report is to look at that data and say, oh, well, yes, it's negative, but if it wasn't for the fact that companies can't move their consumer goods off their shelves, everything else indicates a very healthily growing economy. Like, there's no elephant in the room with that. Hey, consumers aren't buying goods. It's like those people that talk about inflation. Well, actually, yes, this report was really, really hot. Inflation is really, really hot. But if you look at the data, if you just take out food, energy, and everything that you need to survive, and then anything else in the economy that's price went up, if you do that, there's no inflation. In fact, it's probably even deflationary. The amount of effort to sell the American people on the strength of this economy and downplay the weakness of this economy is quite frankly insane. We're in deep, deep mud when people start redefining terms and when people start taking out major crucial components of data sets that we look at to judge the health of the current economy. But anyways, if you're wondering why markets rallied overall on this news, it's because yesterday the Fed signaled slowing rate hikes and a less hawkish trajectory, and this report today made that all the more likely. The market is always trying to look for and grasp onto a new narrative, and the narrative that is taking hold as of right now is, hey, the biggest inflationary peaks are behind us, and the Fed is going to be less and less aggressive moving into the fall, and at the end of the year, it's going to be done with the rate hikes, and then we're going to start going back down. And if that's the trajectory, all of a sudden, cha-chinga, stocks go up. But the problem is that this is all based on the assumption that we're not going to have another round of commodity prices going up, or that we're not going to have another round of any sort of supply chain crisis causing prices to all of a sudden rebound. Before you get back on team transitory for inflation, remember just for a second that we're not even one CPI report into a downtrend. In fact, the last one marked a peak. I hope I'm wrong, but if commodities end up spiking again into the fall, this current rally may end up being one of the biggest bear traps we've ever seen, and the Fed may have to do another 180. I will be on team inflation coming down when inflation has actually started coming down and there's signs that it will continue. Okay, moving on. So TBLT. Now, this was our short squeeze play from last week, which we originally briefed on at about 477-ish a share on July 21st, and it rallied to 935 on a squeeze. Squeezy McSqueezy. Then as it sold off, we explained on Tuesday morning, we were watching the sell-off for a rebound rally later on in the week after it bottoms. Well, it ended up bouncing right off that red directional SMA line, that pearly red directional SMA line, and this morning, boom, pumped up 35% plus. And the point here isn't to say, oh, we knew that it would bottom at the beautiful red directional SMA, or that, oh, you can play this perfectly or anything like that. But the point is there's a lot of power to having actual real criteria and standards to your trades, something that you're looking for in a trade regardless of what happens. This one had high short interest. It had a huge liquidity problem where short sellers were having a hard time covering, and a recent history of unsuccessful covering shooting up the price alongside a lot of social media attention, which of course made everything a lot more juicy. And then you combine that with the sudden drop and the holding of overall direction over our red directional SMA, and it's like, hey, everything stacked up pretty well in this case. Runs come in legs, right? If you go back to when we were talking about this on the Sunday video, hey, we saw shorts rushing to cover, and that is what helped accelerate that price in the prior week, right? So what do you think is going to happen when the next leg of the shorts decide to cover, knowing what happened when the previous round of shorts decided to cover? Well, the price would go up again. And part of that was luck, right? Because as it was going down, hey, not only did you have the technical setup for it to bounce, but you also ended up getting this announcement of a partnership with Ace Hardware that dropped all of a sudden and shook short sellers, and they're like, okay, hey, you know what? We're already up a lot on this position. Let's get the hell out while we can. But anyways, moving forward, as it rallies, you'll likely get another round of shorts trying to get elevation in the short average, and then another leg down before the next wave of covering. Okay, so the monkeypox trades, let's go ahead and start with Madame GovX. So on the 25th, we originally briefed on GovX at about 115-ish a share. It ended up running that day to 195 in the after hours, and then we made our video on it, and like always, when Charlie makes a video, it sells off right after and into open. But it ended up afterwards running to 248 the next day before you got a round of profit taking, which means that in total on this play, it more than doubled from our ZipTrader briefing price. But anyways, you got a leg down and boom, a bounce today, and it attempted a higher high. My thought process, well, I think there's a high probability here that you get maybe one or two more leg down cycles, and then boom, you get another rally McRally the next time the WHO gives another announcement, or when you get some sort of update from GovX. On Monday, we were talking about how the crucial levels here were that 176 support level from the previous cycle and the moonshot all-time high of the previous cycle at about 337. Right now, we are maintaining above 176. If that continues, I would expect another leg up pretty soon. If not, I think another leg down, and then you get a bouncy McBouncy. Next, Siga, quite the diva. We have a rundown on the Siga play that we released back on July 25th. I highly recommend watching that video if you want a complete breakdown on what Siga is. But the main point is that I see them as most likely the most legitimate player in the monkeypox trade. Their smallpox vaccine is FDA approved in the United States for use with smallpox. The FDA must consider it as safe to some extent, right? But also more importantly, their oral vaccine is also approved for use for monkeypox itself in the UK and in the EU. And unlike GovX, Siga actually managed to break out to a new cycle high today. So obviously the stock has moved a lot faster than we were expecting it to. But moving forward, the energy that is in it is going to be based around two different factors. Number one, how much attention is on this monkeypox trade? How much attention is being paid to this overall monkeypox situation? And number two, how much confidence speculators have that Siga will benefit from this? And I could see this running to 24, 25 and then seeing another leg down until the next pump cycle. And I think you could definitely see another new time high after that. Today, the health secretary called on Congress to do more to help contain the monkeypox outbreak, and it's my view that this story is going to continue to trend. I said that back in May. I said, hey, wait until you see the next round of this story. This is not a story that's over yet, and obviously I'm not a bio expert, but who really is? If you listen to some of these people that are talking about it, these guys that say they're scientists, it sounds like they don't know what they're doing either. Hey, if it's a serious disease, that's terrible. Hopefully we get it under control, but still at the end of the day, you can always count on media going and scaring the shite out of people. I think at the very least, this is the latest round in an overall escalation on how scared people are about this crisis. And it keeps getting more and more attention. And I think it will for a while. And thus, something like a Siga or a GovX is an interesting trade if you're looking at it from a very, very short-term perspective and you're only playing it when it's showing proof of concept, getting in and out on pump cycles. And anyways, quick plug, if you're somebody that would benefit from a step-by-step framework and clear pathway to attacking stocks and managing risk, and also are somebody that thinks they would benefit from our daily morning briefings, which are almost always where we first identify these types of stocks before they actually go on to run, well, make sure to give ZipTrader you a look. Link down below. Of course, we don't tell people what to trade, nor do we trade for you, but we can certainly help give you practical guides, practical strategies, practical resources, and of course, daily briefings that show you where we see all of the best opportunities. And don't you dare tell anyone, but we are going to be temporarily bringing back our 50% off sale with coupon code RECESSION50 that I just activated a few minutes ago, and that will expire on Labor Day. We aren't going to officially announce it until next week though, so let's keep it between you and I. Just something to think about if you do want to sign up for lifetime access for the one-time fee. Okay, finally, on that note, let's go ahead and talk about the new catalyst emerging. So this morning, we were talking about the return of green energy bills to the Senate and how that was causing stocks like Plug, SunW, Sunrun, SPWR, and Nova to go parabolic, right? Just to name a few. But what's going on here? Well, pretty simple. It came out that Senator Manchin, who has been blocking a lot of the Biden agenda, is now on board with some of the new bills. Quote, after many months of negotiations, we have finalized legislative text that will invest approximately $300 billion in deficit reduction and $369.75 billion in energy security and climate change programs over the next 10 years. My favorite line here is investing $300 billion in deficit reduction. My solution to the spending problem is to spend more to fix the spending problem. Fan-freaking-tastic strategy. But the point is the energy security and climate change program, if you pull up the bill, a lot of it comes with huge handouts to the clean energy segment, which is good at least from the standpoint of companies that you want to trade that will benefit from that. You have production tax credits to accelerate U.S. manufacturing of solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, critical mineral processing. You have $10 billion investment tax credits to build clean technology manufacturing facilities that facilitate or manufacture things like EVs, wind turbines, and solar panels. You have an assortment of major tax credits to other companies who are able to support the all-over clean energy agenda. All of these things, if you actually go through the list, are going to be a huge handout to a lot of the clean energy companies if this actually gets passed. And if you want my unsolicited opinion on this, I really wish a bill that claims it will increase, quote, American energy security would actually focus on what will work in the here and now, which is supporting our domestic oil and gas companies. Folks, we do want clean energy long term. I don't know that government mandates are the way to get it, but we do want that long term. It's just that we're not ready for it. Do what works now, and while you're doing what works now, help develop the industry for the future if you want. But anyways, companies that benefit from this, pretty much any clean energy company that is domestically based. Some of the ones that I'm looking at are your SunW, your F-Cell, your Plug, your Sunrun, also Enphase, Next Era Energy, and companies like your ChargePoint too, because this is a handout to EVs as well. I think there's a lot of opportunity with this bill, even if it doesn't get passed. How many times have we seen a new bill come out and it ends up not passing, but it causes a lot of these stocks to go up 20, 30, 40%. Now, this is a different market environment, of course, but you can see today, based on how a lot of these stocks traded, people are alive and ready to short-term speculate, which means what? Cha-chinga, trading opportunity. Just make sure that you always have clear entries and exits. You don't expect massive drops not to come at any moment, and you're able to see the overall picture, which is how do you trade the moves, but don't let the moves trade you. Anyways, that capped off the video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to get your up to 10 free stocks with Moomoo using the link down below, and if you want to join us in ZipTrader U, I'll put a link down to that as well. Have a good one, folks, and I'll see you in the next video.